Good evening, YouTubers. It's so good to be back. It's been a while. I am still about and I am still alive. And today we're going to be talking about preppers. What are they about? Who are we? Let's have a look. Right, preppers. Who are we and what are we about? In an uncertain world where most people continue to go about their everyday lives, some people are always on the alert, watching, storing food, learning new skills, learning to be as self-sufficient as possible and less reliant on the government and the system. Is this a bad thing? I don't think so. They're even going as far to learn new skills long forgotten in a lot of circles, like bushcraft, flint knapping, foraging, making shelters, urban homesteading. The list goes on. There's so many different skills that people are learning that are forgotten in today's society, really. Now, in the past, the prepper community has had a lot of flack from the media. The government and the people who believe they live in the perfect world, or their illusion of it at least. They're always looking for the government for help, or even their financial status to avoid even looking into self-sufficiency, believing this will never happen to them. For instance, people with a lot of money believe that an economic crash won't affect them because they will always be able to afford things. They don't realise the knock-on effect of things. For instance, if a bread went up to £20, a loaf of bread went up to £20, they believe they would still be able to afford it. So, preppers are made out to be far-right Rambo wannabes who collect tins of food, hoping for the world to end as they have insecurities in their everyday life, and maybe that they would have some kind of importance if the more alphas in society were removed. This is actually possibly the case in a very small minority, but overall very far from the truth. I've been a prepper for years and have run and been involved with lots of online prepper groups with like thousands and thousands of members. And in the real world, I instruct some of these very skills I speak of. And what I have found will be a shock to a lot of people, to be honest. Now, the illusion of the single unemployed guy dressed in camouflage who lived in his parents' basement is another stereotypical view of members of the community. And again, I'm quite sure that there's probably a couple that fit that bill. I probably know a couple. But again, another misrepresentation. So who are these preppers? Who are we? What makes us tick? Are we nuts? Maybe we are. Or are we doing what man has done since the beginning of time, preparing for bad times, extreme weather, disasters? As the famous prepper saying goes, when disaster strikes, the time to prepare is over. And how true that is. Now I'm going to dispel some of the stereotypes that we deal with constantly as preppers. Okay, that's going to be age, gender, employment status, wealth, country that they come from, marital status and children, political leanings. As mentioned before, the single creepy camo wearing unemployed knife collector neo-Nazi is a view of most preppers. Here he is again. Okay, so let's have a start. Age. We're not all middle-aged, although I'm nearly 50 myself. A survey done across my groups of over 3,000 people gave no real inclination of a particular age group into prepping. It was pretty even, from 21 to 50, plus a small percent of older and a small percent of younger. So there was like a small percentage were sort of like between 50 and 70, maybe 80, and a small percentage were from like 21 down to 16, 18. Gender. Both males and females alike were into prepping, so again, it's not a male-led interest. In fact, a lot of mums are preppers without realising it. Homesteading is one of the best prepper skills to have, and don't we owe it to our kids to be prepared? Now, mums do a great job. They multitask, they can cook, they store food, they do all sorts of skills. So, females are just as good preppers, or even better, than a lot of the men. Okay, right, employment status. Again, this is another misconception, as again, preppers come from different employment backgrounds. They're not all unemployed. We have, and I know members across my groups and other preppers that prepare for their own reasons, for whatever that reason may be. And they come from backgrounds such as police officers, serving military, ex-military, solicitors, accountants, nurses, paramedics, doctors, medics, as well as restaurateurs, fitness instructors. So again, as you can see, all across the board, there's no particular guy that fits that stereotype that a lot of the time the media present of preppers. Okay, wealth. Again, there is no set wealth group involved. Some have more than others. It's always been the way in society. It always will. No matter what your financial situation, you can always prepare. Okay, we have people across the groups that are very wealthy, that are like unemployed. You know, it's all across the board. So again, people are stereotyping preppers with a certain sort of like wealth sector, employment sector, age, gender. It's not true. Okay, so country. Now, what country do most preppers come from? Now, preppers are a very big thing in the USA. Now, in the UK, it's becoming a much bigger interest. I'm not sure what that is, especially after the London riots and more recently the pandemic and the current troubles in the Ukraine. In a survey, our biggest countries were the USA, the UK, and then Portugal. Obviously, other countries were involved, but they were the biggest three countries across my groups that were into prepping. Okay, so where are we now? Marital status. Okay, now as the media or the witch hunters give you visions of a mention, here he is again, the single guy in camo. This is not the case. A lot of married couples are into preparing with a wide variety of skills split between the two of them. Also, as mentioned above, the children factor, teaching our children skills that in the urban environments and technology are being rendered obsolete. But what happens is when that is taken away, it's unlikely, but you know, it's not impossible. We need the skills to be able to sort of like survive and get through. Our basic skills like being able to eat, being able to drink, being able to shelter ourselves and clothe ourselves. Skills, like I say, that are getting forgotten with technology and everything else that's like bombarded at us daily. Okay, that's that. Political leanings. As preppers are made out to be right-wing extremists, again, it's not true and unfair. Wherever there are beliefs or belief systems, there will always be extremism. And people exploiting that for a negative cause. Again, preppers are from all political leanings, left, right and centre. Also, we found that religion didn't play a big part into preparing. We found that most preppers are looking for community and contacts, no matter what their belief systems are or their political leanings. I can assure you, for a start, there wasn't the preppers out panic buying toilet roll at the start of the pandemic, or queuing hours to get a trolley full of pasta, creating food shortages. Preppers will store food over a period of time, rotating and using regularly. So it's not the case that they go out and they're hoarders. I read an article recently. Preppers are hoarders. They're creating food shortages. It's not the case. Okay, I've literally seen it with my own eyes. I remember going shopping and there was this guy in his tweed jacket, gone into Waitrose and stuff, and I was just getting my regular shopping. And this was at the start of the pandemic. And he went behind the meat counter. He said, well, like, can I have £600 worth of meat? Okay, £600 worth of meat, which is probably going to go into his freezer and probably dumped. You know, because I'd seen him 3 times in that week. So, you know, is it wrong for people to do that? I mean, is the prepper that gets like a little bit every now and then over a long period of time creating more problems than the guy that just goes and spends £1,800 in a week and then dumps it? Make your own mind up. Okay, right. So, why am I talking about this and why do we prepare? Okay, like I've dispelled the myths of the stereotypical prepper. So why do people prepare in general? We prepare for all sorts of things. Everyone is different and they have their own agendas, and some seem more far-fetched and others quite practical. I personally prepare for economic collapse, civil unrest, and then other less likely scenarios. You know, I've heard of people preparing for alien invasion. I've heard for people prepping for nuclear war. You know, no matter what the situation, we need to be multi-skilled. Next page. Well, as preppers, we are always learning new skills. It's a thing that I promote on the group regularly. If you can do one thing, is learn something new. You know, a skill learned is worth more than 10 items of equipment you've got. Okay? Every day is a school day, and if we're not learning, we're not living. We are from different walks of life with one common goal: to survive a shit hits the fan event, no matter what that may be. Like I said, people have their different reasons for prepping, their different ideologies, so to speak. So whatever that may be, we need different sets of skills. Now, are we being overcautious or are we just paranoid? Again, it's really a matter of opinion. As I think as mentioned, we are now so reliant on easy access to food, supermarkets, medical supplies, government, running water, etc. And we have become lazy. Now, what would happen if all that was taken away? Like I said, unlikely, very unlikely, but it's not impossible. Look at Venezuela. Look at the Ukraine at the moment. These things do happen. And how would you cope as well? It's like the psychological damage of this. How would you cope? You will never cope. So you'll never know until it happens. But do you have the basic skills in a shit hits the fan situation to find water and food if they were not readily available? If it's not wrapped in plastic, will you be able to go and get it? I doubt a lot of people will. This is why we teach things like urban foraging. It's preserving our food. We grow our own food. Very important. Right, even the UK government advises on their website to prepare water and food for at least 3 days in case of emergency. But to me, it's a no-brainer. I would say 3 weeks. Nothing in life is guaranteed, And there's been situations where governments in the past have given water that's been sat around for ages to people and made them sick. Not on purpose, just, Be responsible for yours and your family's safety and security during the shit hits the fan event, should there ever be one. You are responsible for yours and your family's well-being. Again, another cliche saying: prepare for the worst, hope for the best. We are not doomsayers. The last thing we want is destruction or extreme weather, violence, But if it was to happen, all we want is a fighting chance. Now, for those getting into prepping, if I can give any advice at all, it would be store a week's water, store a week's food, long shelf life food, tins or ration packs, whatever you want to do, candles, torches, batteries, blankets, a backup way to cook, then the rest will follow. You'll have your basics for food, water, shelter, and the way to cook food. As most of us live in urban areas, get to know your urban areas well. I promote it so many times on the group that local knowledge is key to survival. If you live in an urban area and you don't know your urban area, they're full of people. You need to be one step ahead of these other people. Get to know it well. As I always say, like I said, local knowledge is key. You must 100% know your area. Know your food supplies in your area. Know your water supplies. Know food stockists. Know everything. Know farms. Get a local map and mark all points of interest. So if you've got a local map of your area, mark, for instance, like water supplies, local rivers, lakes, streams, farms. It's like foraging areas. All these things need to be marked on a map so you know for future reference. Go and explore your area. Go and do some urban exploration. Go and do some urbex. Just go for a walk in the country. If you've got countryside there, have a look at foraging spots. Learn what the berries are. Learn what you can eat. Go to a foraging course. Do you know what I mean? Just learn new skills and learn about your local areas. Right. Urban areas have lots of berries and fruit. Also things like plantain, hawthorns, rosehips. Know how to process them. Know what they look like. Know how to process them. There is also the good old pigeon, which is not in short supply in the urban areas. Again, learn how to process these things, even if it's just watching a video on YouTube. At the moment, obviously, you cannot go around killing pigeons or shooting pigeons or game of any sort in urban areas. But when it comes down to survival, in shit hits the fan situations, as they've done in the Ukraine, as in Venezuela, as Serbia, it was all fair game, without the pun. Okay, now what else can we find out about our urban areas? Find caves or wartime tunnel systems. As you see on my previous YouTube channels, they are great bolt holes and hideouts. Most of them are not good for long-term survival due to like things like black mold and damp, and lack of light and stuff like that. But they are good to be able to shoot off and have as a little hideout for a day. Some are even in such good condition, they are adaptable for long-term living. So have a look what's in your area. Look at Subterranea Britain. Okay? Like I said, know your area like the back of your hand. Know every alleyway and set points of interest and mark them on the map. Okay, so where are we now? In most situations, bugging in is always recommended. It's always the first case option. I always say to anyone, like when they ask me about bugging in, bugging out, the only time you bug out is if there's a danger to your life or your family's life by staying there. Okay? Bug in for the first 28, 30 days, let everything die down, and then think about bugging out, unless there's an imminent danger to you. But if you do have to bug out, make sure you've got a go bag. There is a link on my YouTube for a go bag, which has had good feedback. So get yourself a go bag or a bug out bag. Look at what needs to be put into it and what you can use and adapt it to your own thing. Again, the worst case scenario, but the whole bug out thing needs to be carefully orchestrated. Again, it's not a simple procedure. It's like people go, I'm going to bug out to the woods. It's not as simple as that. Or me, I'm going to bug out to a tunnel system. Not that simple. Right, so think about a couple of questions to ask yourself. Where are you actually going to bug out to? What do you need to go there? Can you actually get there? Do you have enough skills for food acquisition and water sourcing and purification? Also, shelter building. Do you have the skills to build shelters, whether that's in urban areas or rural areas? Fire making, again. I've been out and I'm experienced and I've gone out with lots of equipment, and there's been times where I can't light a fire because it's so damp. And it's like, and I've seen it, people like Ed Stafford, I watched a video of him and it took him 4 days to light a fire in a warm environment just because of the moisture in the air. It happens. So you need backup plans, A, B, C and D. Most people that go out into the woods and show you all these skills have years and years of experience. Do you know what I mean? These skills are not just picked up overnight. So get learning stuff. Don't underestimate the effect on the untrained body of carrying over 30 kilos over miles of terrain. It's not easy. So when you're saying you're bugging out to the woods, there's lots of factors for you to think about. Okay? That's what I'm saying. It's like I have done, I'm getting on a bit now, I'm nearly 50. But a couple of years ago, we did a 45-mile hike with 35 kilo, elevation of 3,000 metres or whatever it is. And it was a killer. And we're trained. We do this. We was doing this on a regular basis. So if you're Joe Bloggs and you're sitting there eating your cheesy puffs and you don't exercise at all or anything, and you think you're going to bug out to the woods, which is 15 miles away, remember, traffic's going to be chaos. You ain't going to get anywhere in a car. So you think outside the box and think of the things that you're going to need to do this. Okay, and as I mentioned before, psychological effects of a real shit hits the fan situation is beyond most people's comprehension. So again, don't underestimate that. It could be that thing that breaks you. It could be the fact of seeing family members ill or dying, or people in the streets, or rioting even. Violence, extreme violence can have such an effect on you psychologically, it could break you. Okay? So lots of things to think about there. I don't, like I say, I'm not meaning to be a doomsayer or like the bringer of doom. It's, and don't stop living because you're in fear. Prepare, but don't let it affect your life to such an event that you're not doing anything because you're scared. Okay, right. I think that wraps it up about that. If there is any comments, questions, or like you don't agree with me, drop a comment on this video, because what's going to happen is, to be honest, I hope it's given you an insight into who we are as preppers, and that not all preppers are the same. We come from different walks of life, different wealth, different background, different histories, different employment. Okay? Which is going to lead to my podcast I'm going to do, because there's lots coming up now. I'm back in action. I've got some gear reviews to do. I'm setting up a podcast which is going to be everyday people. We're going to have wild campers, homeschooling mums, police officers, serving soldiers, you know, restaurant owners, anyone that's in the prepping scene. I want to know how their skills help them towards their prepping goals. Okay, so that is coming up soon. The podcast is going to be real people. Like I say, we're not interested in famous people. I want real preppers. So I've got a few lined up. I think we've got 9 or 10 lined up. So that will be coming soon. So bear with me. Okay. Sorry it's been a while to get back to you. Lots going on. Please like and subscribe the video. And please share it. Thank you to everyone who's subscribed so far and supporting. We're up to 860, I think, at the moment. So that's good. Let's head to the 1,000. Right, it's been emotional as ever. I'll speak to you soon. Take care, guys.